do have a child that feel that way? How do you parent a child like that?
I mean, if you wasn't a parent from the beginning, that's probably why that child is like that. There's really no way. I mean, there probably is a way to adjust things, but it's gonna be hard because they set in their ways already.
Yep.
If you let that child do what they did for 3 years, and you go back to try to, you know what I'm saying? It's, I'm not gonna say that it can't be done, but it's gonna be hard.
Yes. And to your point, I wholeheartedly agree. It's going to be difficult to actually make that happen. Now, the thing is that some of us is in a situation where we're developing our relationships, right? So this is a very good conversation for us to have because it's not going to come without sacrifice. And anything that we're not willing to sacrifice for, we shouldn't have, in my opinion.
Right.
If it's not worth the sacrifice, then it's not worth having. Let's be real. That relationship, if that relationship means something to you, then you're going to do what you have to do to build that relationship up, no matter how bad it is. And most of the time, it calls us to come out of ourselves and be vulnerable, right? Explain to our kids sometimes that, hey, especially when they're old enough, not when they're too young, but when they get old enough, explain to them, this is where I went wrong. Why? Because they're learning a lesson. You see what I'm saying? How can I say, don't do as I did if I'm still doing it? What's that old saying we hear in a lot of our households?
Don't do as I say, don't do as I
Don't do as I do as I say. And how much credibility did that ever hold? None whatsoever, right? So, yeah, to your point, you're right. There are certain situations. So when it comes down to it, it's going to be a sacrifice to actually develop the house and make it better. So I'd love to hear you guys talk about that. Didn't quite mean to go into parenting, but it happened. So let's jump back to where we're supposed to be. Y'all ready? Alright, so on the first page, for you right here, Deborah, what we're doing is this is developing a social support system. So we're going to give you a moment to go down this column right here, and all you're going to do is identify the things you need that you need from a social support system, right? Go ahead.
I checked off everything except for someone who can serve as an accountability partner.
Why is that?
Because I feel like where I'm at now, before now, I've held a lot of people accountable for things and choices and stuff that I did.
Okay.
And I feel like now that I know right from wrong, I did then, but I'm clear-minded now, and I don't feel like I should hold anybody else accountable for decisions or things that I make. I might ask for advice.
Okay.
But like to hold somebody else accountable, I don't feel
That can actually be used both ways. I see where you're coming from. That also can be used as, well, let me put it to you like this. I tell people about what I'm going to do, so they'll check me on it. So in essence, what does that mean? I tell people, hey, I'm working on this right here, and I put it out there in front of the right people, not the wrong people, so they will always come back and say, hey man, what about that thing you were working on?
oh, so that kind of accountability.
Exactly. That person is making sure that you're staying on the right track. You get me?
Okay.
Somebody that's going to be able to provide that accountability, basically. Because it's easy for us to say we're going to do something, and, you know, we fall off.
And
Who's
not
going to be that
necessarily that
individual?
we don't want to do it, but it might get sidetracked.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Life.
Yeah.
Life happens, right? So that person, like even in there, you see it says someone. If you go down to third one from the bottom, it says someone that knows how to stay mentally empowered and can teach me. Right? Somebody that can teach you to stay mentally focused on what it is that you need to stay focused on.
Right.
Those are the types of people you need in your life. Because these are going to be the people that can see through the BS. You feel me? You're going to go, because come on, you know who Vince Lombardi is? You watch the Super Bowl? Nobody watch the Super Bowl?
Yeah.
Okay, you know that trophy they get in when they win the Super Bowl? Okay, that's the Vince Lombardi trophy. Vince Lombardi was a legendary coach in the NFL, right? Green Bay Packers. So they named a trophy out of him, but he has this quote I love. And Vince Lombardi said, fatigue makes cowards out of us all. What does that mean?
You said what?
It says fatigue, tiredness, makes cowards out of us all. What does that mean?
Fatigue, tiredness makes cowards out of us all.
So what does that mean? Think about when you're focused on something, you say, I'm going to get this, and you're getting up every day, and you're going after them, you're going after them, you're going after them, and it calls you to have to stay up late, get up early, stay up late, get up early, stay up late, get up early. Your kid's acting up. this right here happens. You still gotta stay up late, get up early. What happens eventually on that road? We get tired, right? And oftentimes, if we're doing a lot of mental work, to me, mental tiredness is worse than physical tiredness. Because when I can't think like I'm supposed to, it irritates me. You see what I'm saying? So we get tired on that road. And what typically happens when we get tired on that road?
Give up.
Give up. How do we give up? Let me ask that question. Because it's not this abrupt thing that we think it is. We don't typically say, I ain't doing it no more, do we?
Stop taking the steps moving forward.
Gradual.
We tell ourselves, okay, today I'm not going to do it. Right? So, how many of you ever been working out consistently?
Yeah.
You hit it. And then one day you get what? Tired. And then you tell yourself what?
I'm not going to that.
I'm not going when?
I'm not going to do it.
I'm not going to do it today. What happens typically the next day?
You don't do it 10.
What happens the next day?
You don't do it 10.
1 plus 1 equals what?
2.
Sit. And this life, it requires some serious discipline. I'm going to tell you it does. And I noticed even with my own working out, the reason why I use this example is because I would I told you guys I would hit the treadmill almost every day, Monday through Friday, right? Weekends I would take off. Well, I noticed that there's a break in my behavior when I get sicker, or something would come up. And the moment there's a break in what I was doing, the consistency's thrown off. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah.
So this is important for you to know, because we can't adjust if we don't know how and when to adjust. You get what I'm saying? So now I'm conscious of the fact that when something comes up, it throws off my consistency. It was a time I wasn't conscious about that. And I would work out, and then I'd wake up one day and say, hey, it's been like 4 days since I worked out. And didn't even trip, it had been 4 days. Does that make sense? No, none of y'all, huh? So y'all understand where I'm coming from?
Yeah.
You see, so it's easy to get thrown off because it's never abrupt. There's like this saying, I think it was like a biblical saying, and it says it's a small fox that spoils the vine. So basically what it's saying is that it's never this big abrupt thing. It's always going to come in very small. You get me? We're going to talk about in here how individuals usually address you when they want to talk you down from your success. You understand what I'm saying? Because see, misery loves company. And there's people in this world, right? They will look you square in your eyes and tell you how much they care about you. They'll tell you how much they love you. They'll tell you all this stuff. Yeah. But every moment and every ounce and every inch you climb, they resent that. Yeah. Does that make sense? All right, cool. So let's go. Everybody got page number 1 done?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about it very quickly before we jump and go into. So now, I want everybody to pick one and tell why it is that you feel that you need this for your social support system. So you already talked about accountability, right? If you want to share again, please do. Do you want to? Oh, looking over?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Go ahead and do that. Are we still planning on bringing this up on the thing and walking through it? He was going to work next week. Oh, next week. Okay. Yeah, we'll do it on a PowerPoint or anything.
Mine would be another one rather. Is someone to do things with.
Okay. So why is that important?
Because I tend to do a lot for like my kids and forget about myself.
Oh, so let's talk about that.
And sometimes it's not because I don't want to, or like that I don't have the money to, or you know, nothing like that. But just for me coming here, is that I found people that I can socialize with that don't use, that don't, you know what I'm saying? Or if they do drink, or if they do use, they know how to do it moderately. It's not like nothing that I feel that would jeopardize my recovery.
Okay.
And that was my problem before. Everybody that I knew or hung out with, you know, and they still do. So I knew that I couldn't put myself back
Okay.
in that situation. So now it's like I'm ready to start doing, not really doing me again, but like doing me again.
Doing you again. Exactly. And I would say the reason that's important is because we cannot forget about ourselves in this process.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes we give so much to everybody else, but here's the deal. Every great relationship is reciprocal. If you're not receiving anything and you're constantly giving, how are you going to feel about yourself later on?
My whole thing is just that as long as my kids be happy, as long as my kids are smiling, as long as my kids like don't have to ask me for nothing. Like, Mama, I need a new, like, or Mama, these shoes too tight. I need a new. I don't want to hear that. I want to be able to do it before I know. You know what I'm saying? Or I don't want my kids to get up one day and put on a pair of pants and they coming up to their knees. Or so long as I can provide and do for my kids and I see my kids happy and they not. Every parent gonna want for something, but not that want to where it's like they got them out here trying to rob and steal and kill to get it. Then I'm okay.
Got it. And that's beautiful. But here's the thing. Either you integrate something in there where you're getting some appreciation for your accomplishment, because, hey, listen, you know that old saying they say when you get paid, the first person you're supposed to pay is whom?
God.
Yourself.
God.
You get me? Now, I understand where you're coming from. So, in essence, well, that brings you joy to be able to do that, right? So if you're using the money to do something that's going to bring you some joy, if everybody else is getting the joy, but you're not getting any joy from your labor, how eventually are you going to feel?
You're going to want to stop doing it.
Yeah. Even if, I'm not trying to say we shouldn't be there for our kids. So let me tell you what I did. I'll put together a point. I said sacrifice, right? Because I knew it was going to come a time where I'll be out here doing what I'm doing. Also, I knew that I was going to invest this time right now because when I turn a certain age, them jokers going to be gone. And then it's going to be me doing me. You get me? So I had a plan on when I was going to be able to do me. And that's what everybody, I believe, should have. You should have that plan on when you're going to spend your time and your effort uplifting you because they're old enough now to walk alone. Does that make sense? So if you don't have that, then to me, it takes the worthwhile, and this is my personal opinion, it takes the worthwhile of living out of the game. To live means to grow, it means to evolve, it means to have joy and excitement about your life. All that only comes through personal accomplishment. If a person's not accomplishing anything in their life, how much joy do they typically have? None. So we say one accomplishment is being a great parent, right? I accomplished that. The next accomplishment, you can say, hey, I left all that crazy stuff alone. I got my mind right. I accomplished that. And so other accomplishments must follow after that because that's called momentum. Anyone know the formula for momentum? It's atmosphere, attitude, and accomplishment. Those three things, when you have those three things, it keeps you moving forward. The right attitude, you're in the right atmosphere, around the right people, so the right environment, right? And you're accomplishing some things. Because if we're not accomplishing some things, what do we typically do? We throw in the towel. What's the use of doing this if it's not taking me or accomplishing anything? I'm not accomplishing anything. You see what I'm saying? So accomplishment has to be a part of it. So even though you're accomplishing being a great parent, but what are you accomplishing for yourself? We talked about purpose, right? What is your purpose? Because contrary to popular opinion, you just wasn't built to be a mother. You know what I'm saying? I'm being 100. I know some people think they do, but do you ever notice that every great mother, you hear the same thing. You hear them say these words. I had to sacrifice everything I desire to do to stay home and to be a mother to you. So what does that mean? That means there's some things that they wanted to do that they felt that they were unable to do. I beg to differ. I think that if we were created to do something, even though we're a mother or a father, we'll still be able to do that great thing. That's the reason why you're supposed to have both parents in the house, because it balances out the load. So when mom's doing mom, dad is there on the scene, and she can feel comfortable knowing that the kids is taken care of. When dad's doing dad, When I say doing mama, I'm talking about building herself up to be that woman of influence in her home, where her kids can look at her and say, hey, you know what, my mama didn't have it before too, but now she's doing very well. That takes all the excuses out the game. You see what I'm saying? That balance, when we have that balance. So typically we don't have that anymore, right? So now we have to find ways of adjusting. So this right here is perfect, because now you're finding a way of adjusting by saying who can you actually be around that can help with that. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yes.
Go ahead, Felina. Tell us which one is you.
Someone that knows how to stay mentally empowered and can teach me.
Okay. Why is that important?
Because if they're mentally empowered, that keeps me on my toes.
They can see clear, right?
They can see clear and they can address all these other supportive systems that I need.
Exactly. Exactly. Mentally empowered people make better decisions. Do you know why? When you can see clear, what does that really mean?
Yeah, there's no fog. There is no.
They can analyze or interpret. They can interpret the situation correctly, right? So 1 + 1 in this situation always equals 2. There's no 1 + 1 = 8. How does 1 + 1 typically equal 8? Because you get a friend of yours and say, I'm gonna go buy me a car. Give you a prime example. So they go down to the car lot, take you with them. You walk in there with them. Oh yeah, you can get the car and it's gonna work. And you already know their financial situation, right? They get in there. Oh, you gonna get the car? They done bought into the test drive, sitting down in the plush leather. You know all the psychological stuff they do to you to get you bought in. You know they don't bought in. They really want it because they can see themselves in it. But you get to finance. Oh, it's gonna be $550 a month. This is the same person just asked you for $20. They ask you for $20 every month, or $30 every month. See, when you're mentally focused, you can say, hey girl, how you gonna afford that? You see what I'm saying? Have you thought about it? Yes, a nice car and all, but how can you afford that right now? What type of situation is gonna put you in? Because you know what's worse than actually getting I won't say getting the car is worse, but one of the worst things in the world is this. Have you ever had a car repossessed? I had several. Hurts when somebody comes snatch up your stuff. Why? How did it happen? Because every time when I was out there being stupid, I put myself in a position I knew I had no business putting myself in. I knew. But my wife, I like it. And me, I like it too. You know, that lust of the eyes, right? So we seen something, we took it, and we end up in a bad situation. But that's what mentally prepared people can do. Go ahead, sweetie. Which one did you pick? Do you have a paper? Okay, which one did you pick?
I don't want to share.
Huh?
I don't want to share.
You don't want to share? Why? What's wrong? Okay, go ahead, Deborah.
I pick someone who would tell me when my thinking is becoming negative.
Oh, why is that important?
That's important because, you know, sometimes we think negative, we need somebody around that's going to stay positive. You know, take positive things to keep you uplifted and keep you up, you know.
Exactly.
When you're around negative people, you stay negative.
Exactly.
Positive people, you stay positive. So it's the company you keep.
Exactly. That is it right there. And the great part about that is it keeps you on track to do what you want to do.
That's right.
And what's interesting about that is we don't wake up a year from now pissed off because we started something we didn't finish. So when we have somebody in our life that's going to say, hey, stay on that, stay on that, stay on that, it keeps us on our toes.
My grandmother used to say, if you don't do it, ain't nobody going to do it.
A friend of mine said, well, not necessarily a friend of mine, but acquaintance on a job, she made this statement when I first got hired some years ago. She said, nobody's coming. Do you know what that means?
Nobody gonna help you.
Nobody's coming to do this job for you. Nobody's coming to make these calls for you. Nobody's coming to service these clients for you. Nobody is coming. If it's to be, then it's up to me.
That's right.
You see? And see, where we have a disconnect at as people sometimes is religion. Because we've been so caught into it. I'm just going to say this, God's going to do it, right? But see, I understood what Scripture said, faith without works is dead. So we can believe whatever you want to. But here's the deal. If you don't get up off your butt every single day and push that process along in terms of the creation of it, right? We're creating. We're always creating. You're either creating something positive or you're creating something negative, but you're always creating, and there is no in between.
And I think you got to take accountability for your own actions. You got to blame
Yes.
yourself for any fails and falls that you do.
Yes.
You learn from it.
Yes. That speeds the process up, right? Because a lot of us typically stay in that position for a long period of time. We don't take accountability for what